Thank you for coming, the ones who have been here for our other talks. And in Bhutan, we say, when you say humble person, we say in terms of humility, I'm the best. So much for humility. So anyway, thank you for coming again, and this is our third talk here in the Buddhafield Festival. Unfortunately, we'll be here only today, and tomorrow we are leaving in the morning. So it has been really fun to be here. And today, especially this session, we would like to give you some information about Bhutan Nuns Foundation. And Bhutan Nuns Foundation, again, those of you who are new, Bhutan is it's a small, it used to be a kingdom till 2008, before our king had given it to the people to democratize the country. Until then, it used to be a kingdom, and it's a small kingdom in the Himalayas. China here, Bhutan here, India here, and Nepal. And it has a population of under 1 million. So it's a Buddhist country. People usually say that would like to believe that it's untouched by many of the, of course the globalization is there, but so many people who come to visit, they come because it is the untouched and one of the uncorrupted Buddhist countries so far in the world. That's how people usually believe. So you will come to find out that when you come and visit. So I cannot say that whether it is or not. So anyway, so that's where Bhutan is, for those of you who don't know. And because I try to remind myself to clarify that each talk I give, because I tend to assume that people know where Bhutan is, and since it's a small country, people have not heard about it, and then many times people have asked me, where is it? So I have to make sure that people know that it's on this planet. And Bhutan Nuns Foundation was started in 2009, and it's a little more than 4.5 years old now. And it's still a very fledgling non-profit organization that we have started to support the Buddhist nuns particularly, and also, of course, women who are, who wants to practice spiritual, especially Dharma. So we are, like I said, it's 4.5 years old, and we started this because I was studying in US for several years. I did my undergraduate, finished in Massachusetts in one of the women's college in 1999. I graduated, and then I went back home won some fellowships from that while as a graduating senior, to go anywhere in the world and do a public service. And I thought I got $10,000, and I was so fascinated that I can do a lot with that. And I went home and went in my village. There was a nunnery, and then I went and created a tiny library for the nunnery there, and taught the nuns how to read and write and so on, and also volunteered to be and I started this literacy program for women in the village. And then after 2 years of that, with that money I had, after 2 years I went back to do my master's and continue on to doing my PhD degree in the University of Massachusetts Amherst, if anybody's here from that area. So I did that, and I finished my degree in 2009. And why I always wanted to do this kind of work was because wherever I went, I felt like, oh wow, I went to one of the best women's college in U.S., and I was so fascinated that I wanted to do something back home. I want to bring back for our women, for women like myself. Like, for example, I went to get this education. It was priceless for me. From coming from a underprivileged background, from one of the most, Bhutan is such a small country in itself, and it's very backward in terms of development. During my time, when I went to school, there was no TV, was not introduced. Forget about internet and whole this 9-yard stuff in the world. So to get to from my village to get to the capital city was almost like coming from Bhutan to U.S. or United Kingdom right now. So the distance. So to get to send a girl child to school was such a challenging thing for the family. And like I said, I was the first girl child sent to school from my community. And then somehow, with lots of bumps on the road, I got where I am. I call that as a narrow escape. I could have been back home, not doing anything, married, had lots of children, and, working in the little farm and not being able to, do as much as, that one would do with the education. So that's why and then I got this opportunity. During those days in Bhutan, once you are out of school, there was no second chance. We didn't have any, anything, any programs, any opportunities to go back to school and get yourself educated. And so I studied till the high school, and then I took up a secretarial job, thinking that I can help my family back home, like my parents, my older sisters who had never seen the gate of the school. So then I thought, I was so obsessed with earning and, making some money for myself and, standing on my own feet and not to have to depend on anybody. So, fed up of the poverty, I guess. And then I didn't go to college. I went to work. And I was doing a secretarial job for 4 years, and then soon I realized that by doing a secretarial job, I didn't see any way that I could support my rest of my family members or anybody else. So even it was difficult for me to support myself. Then I wanted to go back to get a better education myself, and I looked around. In Bhutan, we don't have. And then I was interested in Buddhist studies. And then I heard that I bumped into a monk who went to India, who was a friend of my friends. And he said, if you're interested in Buddhist studies, I know in Varanasi, the Tibetan Institute of Buddhist Higher Studies accepts women now, because it used to be only for the monks. And he said, now they accept women, and I think you should go there. And then I left the job right then and there, and without asking my family, my parents, nobody, and I went to India, packed everything, and I went. And even my boss said, you're very young to take this kind of decision right now. Do you want to take about 2 years study leave? And then I said no, because I may not come back, and then I may not get anything benefits. So I took my little benefits, like maybe it was $500 worth of benefits from the work, and I went home and I told my family, I left this because I can do better than this, and don't worry. And I had to tell my parents, because for them, they don't care what kind of job you have. Since you are in the government job, it was a big deal. My daughter is working in the government in the capital city. So they were really disappointed, but I told them all the beautiful stories, and I left. I ended up being there for 7 years. And then only I got a BA degree in Buddhist studies. And from there, somehow, the opportunities came on my way, and I got got opportunity with a full scholarship to go to US and do my another undergraduate, because it was nothing similar to what I have done in Varanasi. And then after coming back, like I said that time, then I went back to do my master's, and somehow I was obsessed with the highest education that I could get once I had the opportunity. So this was the thing, and it failed. And I kept on, and I finally got my PhD degree in 2009. And then I thought, but in my mind, I always wanted to do something that will benefit the women, because how I got where I got, it had been really, really, I could make a movie. If I'm an artist, I could draw it, like the difficulties that obstacles that you have to come through to get, like from a family background like mine. So then that's why I wanted to always start after I went to Mount Holyoke College, a women's college, I thought, I could start a college going back home. I want to start a women's college back home. So I wanted a sister, college, I want to start, because it was a whole different thing for me. Like the first time I learned to ask questions to the professors, raise your hands and ask questions without any problem. And it broadened my horizon so much that I really wanted to go back home and do something, give back to women, to my family, to everybody who cannot get that kind of opportunity. But then I realized, to cut the long story short, or short story long, maybe I'm making. So then I realized that going back to Bhutan after several years in the US, I realized that the education system has changed a lot, and it was never like when I went to school. The only school that we had around that region is one school that was one whole day walk from my village, and not many girls were able to go to school as a result, because they didn't have boarding facilities, and the young girls to send for their family to send far away from their village was difficult, and there was not much of motor vehicle. They all did was walk through a difficult path, and that kind of thing. So since we didn't have a girls' dormitory, I ended up sharing with boys. And then what boys really usually do is, every time I went to the class and come back and see, I wouldn't have my bed, that little rolled up bedding. And then I looked through the window, and my bedding will be outside the window. They would have thrown it. It was a fun joke, but it wasn't funny. So those kind of things, you had to overcome when those days. So families usually wouldn't send their girl children to school because of all these difficulties. So that's why I really, really had that from the very beginning. I wanted to do something desperately for women and for young girls who didn't have that kind of opportunity. But when I went back, like I said, there was a lot of change. There were schools in every community. At least the government with the education ministry, they have thought about and studied and researched and put schools in the middle of from equal distance from each, where from each community the children can walk only 1 hour, the maximum. So those kind of things were thought and planned, and it was change. So that's why then I thought, and also one of the senior officials told me that, Tashi, if you want to do something, the schools have now, the Ministry of Education is doing a lot to improve schools, and we have lots of private schools and government schools, and it's not like before, but we really need something for the nuns. At least he thought about it, and I was kind of surprised when he said that. And I said, I always had a passion to support the nuns, of course, and I never thought it will be like a foundation, organizing, setting up a foundation. But always it was like a passion, like a hobby for me. That's why with the fellowship scholarship, I got $10,000 fellowship, that I went back home and created a small, tiny library for the nunnery because out of passion. And then when he said that, I was so shocked, and I said, of course, I would love to. And of course, this Bhutan Nuns Foundation's, Her Majesty, the Queen Mother, our fifth king's mother, is our patron. And this senior official was saying Her Majesty is also interested in this supporting the nuns, and she had been doing in her own way, little ways. So I think she needs also someone like you who can start this and then help put the heads together and start something like this. So finally we started this so-called Bhutan Nuns Foundation to help the nuns, like my friend here. We have throughout the country about 25 nunneries in the country, but very few of them are doing very well. They have study programs, they have living condition is better because they are supported by many well-known teachers, spiritual teachers in the country. But the rest are the smaller ones who are further away in the far-flung areas of the country. They really needed attention. In terms of education, improving their education, in terms of living situation, to uplift their living situation. We found out that that they didn't have qualified teachers, they didn't have teaching learning materials, they didn't have classroom. Living situation was very, very basic and even below basic. So then so that's 2006. I went around throughout the country to do baseline research to start this organization, and at the same time I wrote my PhD thesis on nuns education because I wanted to have a theory, and then if I'm going to work practically to support the nuns, I would love to have some research done on and theoretical backup. So that's what I did, and we started under Her Majesty's guidance. We started this foundation called Bhutan Nuns Foundation, and it is basically to prepare our nuns down the road to be socially active citizens rather than passive, recipients. Of course, culturally, Buddhist monks or nuns are there doing 100% spiritual practice, in the remote places, they are living a peaceful life. However, I realized that with the changing of the world, our country is also moving forward in a very speedy way, trying to with all this development and globalization and all this, there is a lot of change. And if there is change, then we can see that the life of the nuns or monks, we cannot assume them to live like a 7th century or 8th century, because those days you could go, you could live on alms, go around and do the begging, and your family members support it, and there was a culture, and there still is some that when there is harvest season, farmers take the food and give offerings. So this down the road, it's likely to change. It is changing already a little bit, and that's why we thought that it will be really good to educate the nuns, create a self-sufficient, self-sustaining skills if we can give them. They are already educated in the spiritual way. We could give them skills like counseling, health worker trainings like hospice, these kind of things, so that they can really benefit other women and children. We give health and hygiene trainings to the nuns through the foundation now, so that they can go in the society and help for the other women in the rural parts of Bhutan in terms of health, hygiene, how to take care of their health and all that. So that's what we are trying to do, to equip them with skills so that they can help. That how many of them can, what we assume is even not only outside foreigners, but But even my own country people, they assume that, oh, monks and nuns, their responsibility is to stay in the mountains and do retreats and do meditation. But there are some people, who, how many of them will engage in the meditation and renounce the world? There are some who are very good at, being teachers, being, counselors, and they can help really practically hands-on. So those potentials, we are trying to tap into their potentials and bring in together and give them education and training so that they can benefit the society at large. The Bhutan Nuns Foundation has been, over the past 4 years, what we have been doing is train them. We give them workshops and trainings on health and hygiene, nutrition, all this, kind of trainings we had been giving. But then we also realized, while going around and giving training, we call them, the representatives come to a certain area like capital city, and we had been giving them training. But very soon we have also realized that by giving this kind of trainings, it didn't go anywhere, because when they don't have proper toilet and running water facilities, it didn't mean anything giving health and hygiene training. And then we talk about how to balance nutrition. But if they have very limited access to food, then it didn't mean anything. So we had been simultaneously trying to do, what we had been trying to do is, raise funds to help them with infrastructure, like building toilets, getting running water to their nunneries, and having a classroom space, and providing with teaching learning materials, identifying teachers, preferably non-teachers who are qualified, to send to the nunneries in the rural areas, so that they can teach the nuns. At least there is a curriculum, help them to create a curriculum. So all these things we had been doing so far, and it has been really challenging couple of years, and there is a lot of potential that we can tap into if they are skilled in these things. So these are some of the things that we had been doing with the nuns in Bhutan. And then our long-term goal is to really create them to be good teachers, good social workers. Like Annie was mentioning this morning, that we don't really have a charity, charity tradition or social workers tradition in Bhutan. And it has been really like we separate the practitioners, the Buddhist practitioners. Their role is to stay in the mountains and meditate and do these kind of things. So instead of that, we try to say that nuns is a agent of social change. There is a lot of potential that if we educate this group of citizens, so that they can benefit they can make a bigger impact in the society. So this is how they can also help these women who are in need of this kind of support spiritually. They can go into the society, and the nuns could go and help, and the women could come to the nunneries. So for this, we are also finally, after 4 years of struggle, a lot of challenges. Anything you do, a new thing, I'm sure you all also must have faced some challenges in your lifetime in different ways. But as you know, anything different you do in a society is challenging. So this starting a foundation like Bhutan Nuns Foundation, and trying to promote nuns as a agent of social change is a challenging subject, and there is a lot of issues come in between. When you try to do something good, always something negative comes in with that. So there had been a lot of challenges, but however, it has been very rewarding area of work. And now finally the government has given us land to create a training center, because we have gone through a lot of difficulties trying to call them to the capital city and provide them training, but they don't. Then we can't provide them with living facilities. If we put them in a hotel, it's really expensive for the foundation. And if we and we tried going around and giving in each nunnery, traveling throughout the country. So even though Bhutan is such a small country, but from the capital city to my village, it takes 3 days car ride. The narrow road, zigzag through the mountains. So that's why we had been requesting the government that we would like to create a training center that have not been there in the whole country. So we would like to create a training center that will cater, training and residing place for nuns who come to receive trainings from throughout the country. So this is what we had been doing. I especially had been traveling anywhere, like attending conferences, giving presentations, raising funds to support them and get to whatever little support we get from outside countries, from both within and outside countries. We raise funds and then get to, so that we can reach to these unreached places, and then be able to educate and improve the living conditions of our nuns. So that's what I have been doing all these 4 years, and now, of course, it has been such a rewarding years. We had been able to, with very little we had been able to provide them with these basic necessities. And from now on, we are looking into this big project, like from now on to 3 to 4 years down the road, we are trying to create this training center, which is an office space, then a training unit, and then dormitory facilities for the nuns when they come to the capital city. Especially, the only good hospital we have is in the capital city. When the nuns have health issues, again when they come to receive this health treatment in the capital city, they don't have place to stay. So we are trying to create that kind of common place for the nuns, from whoever comes from anywhere, to stay and create a space. So those are some of the things we are doing. And if you know anybody who supports this kind of charity work and for women, and I always say, this religion thing comes in between when we talk about Buddhist nuns or nuns. It has been the most challenging thing that I have experienced during these 4 years, is that there are so many big foundations who supports this kind of charity, non-profit organizations. However, the biggest challenge I face for the Bhutan Nuns Foundation is when people look at it as a religious. So I always have to explain to them that please when you put away the religious part, they are still women, they are still young girls, the children, that they need education and they need support. So to at least to look at that in that sense. And also the other challenge is, there is, I don't know, maybe Western culture is much better, because you look at in a humanitarian rather than about blind faith, religious, like that. I think in the Western culture there is much reasoning, but in the Asian cultures, what they do is you have to be you have to be a spiritual teacher in order to be able to receive some support. So I'm a lay person, I'm a woman, I'm not a nun, and again, I'm not a male spiritual teacher. So it's a very limited support and trust that I get, especially in Asian countries. Like it's well known for our spiritual teachers getting support from Asian cultures like Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan, like from Malaysia. All these countries are known for supporting the Buddhist practitioners. But that is again culturally, like when they give ceremony, practice, blessings, then they make offerings. But for me as a woman and as a layperson, to get that support had been very difficult. So what I have to try and remind them that I'm a women, ordinary person trying to make a difference in the lives of women. Keeping aside the religious part, we are not there to proselytize religion or convert anybody or promote that, but we are just trying to help the women like any one of us to get education and benefit the society, especially women, women communities. So that's how I go around and try to give little talks. So if you know anybody who is interested in this kind of charity work, please pass the word around. And I always like to say, of course, it's not very easy to talk about money. And I always say this joke that there is I have a little son, 13 years old. He loves humorous books to read and tell me all the time jokes. And one day he showed me a joke and he said, we read together, and there was it's always a family. It's a little book for family jokes. And there was, I believe, there was a father and mother and 3 little kids, and they always go for weekends to see their grandparents. And the mother always warned them, please don't ask gifts from your grandma when you go. If you're going to ask her to give you presents, I'm not going to take you to a vacation to grandma's. Then they promise they are not going to ask any gifts from the grandma, and she takes them for a weekend to see grandma. And then when they reach to grandma's place, grandma, I know I'm not supposed to, we know we are not supposed to ask presents, but if you give, I will take it. So similarly, I feel terrible asking people support, but if you give, we will take it and make the best use of it. Every dollar counts, and it goes to it reaches to the unreached, and we make a meaningful use of it. So, thank you. Name Same Kadinche. Name Same Kadinche means thank you beyond sky and earth. That's a regular expression we say, Name Same Kadinche.